CCS Scholars. My name's Miss Tilly, and I'm so excited to be learning with you today. Today we are completing Lesson 15 of Unit 2 Skills, and during this lesson we are going to decode words in a text with purpose for understanding. The materials you'll need for this lesson are your Unit 2 reader if you have it. If you don't have it, don't worry. I've included everything you need in the slides. Let's take a look at some of the words we're going to come across in today's text. Remember, when we're reading nonfiction text, one of the text features is bold words. We're going to come across some bold words, and it's important that we look in the glossary to identify the meaning of these words. If you don't have the glossary, I've included the words on this slide so that we can take a closer look at them together before we read. Komodo dragon, the largest living lizard. Notice that we also have the plural form of this word, Komodo dragons, which means more than one dragon. Exist, to be alive. Notice here we have the suffix ed attached. What does that mean again? Right, that makes the verb happen in the past. So existed means it happened before or in the past. Island, an area of land completely surrounded by water. And notice how we have the S attached here? What kind of form is that? Right, the plural form, which means more than one island, islands. Burrow, a hole in the ground dug by an animal for safety or for living. Notice again, we have what form of the word? Right, the plural form, burrows, which means more than one. Nostril, one of the openings of the nose. Nostrils is the plural form, right. Tongue, the part of the mouth used for tasting, licking, and swallowing. And the last word is saliva, which is spit. Ugh, gross. Remember, when we're reading nonfiction text, we're reading for a purpose or to answer a question. It's not really like reading fairy tales or reading fictional text for entertainment. This time, we're reading to learn something new. And so before we read each page, I'll set the purpose by asking a question. And when we read the text, we will go to find the answer to that question. The question we're going to look at on the next slide is, are Komodo dragons dangerous? Go ahead and take a look at the image in your book on page 127. The caption says, fire-breathing dragons are found only in fairy tales and movies. The Komodo dragon is a large reptile found in Indonesia. Take a look at the two images. What is different about them? Right, this is a dragon from a fairy tale, not a real dragon. But this is the real Komodo dragon. Remember, we're reading for a purpose, so we are reading to answer, are Komodo dragons dangerous? If you see the answer in the text while we're reading, make sure you underline it. Chapter 13, the Komodo dragon. You've probably heard or read at least one fairy tale with a dragon as a character. In these stories, dragons fly around breathing fire and frightening innocent people until a brave knight comes along and kills the dragon. Well, you won't find any fire-breathing dragons in a book about animal classification. There is no proof that these fairy tale dragons ever existed. There is, however, one real dragon that does exist, the Komodo dragon. No, it does not breathe fire, and it does not fly. It's just a big reptile. They can be pretty mean. It's rare, but they have attacked and even killed humans. So be careful if you are ever traveling through Indonesia. Did you guys see a sentence in the text that answers the question, are Komodo dragons dangerous? I know I did. Take a look at the second paragraph. It's rare, but they have attacked and even killed humans. Does that sound dangerous to you? Yes, that's very dangerous. So I am going to highlight that part of the text that answers the question. Make sure you've underlined that detail in your book. Whenever we find evidence of an answer, we call that text evidence. So you may be hearing some about that in your classes at school. On the next slide, let's read to answer, are Komodo dragons large or small reptiles? And let's take a look at the image on page 129. We have a map of Indonesia and another picture of a Komodo dragon. The caption reads, a Komodo dragon can be as large or larger than a crocodile. I did not know that. And take a look at how big this Komodo dragon is. I wonder how this picture relates to the text that we're reading. Let's read and find out. Remember to underline the answer to, are Komodo dragons large or small reptiles? These dragons are named after the island of Komodo, which is part of Indonesia. They can be found on 4 or 5 other Indonesian islands as well, but overall, they're pretty rare. They prefer hot, dry places. They dig burrows 2 to 3 feet deep in the ground. Like most reptiles, they spend most of their time sleeping or simply relaxing. A Komodo dragon can be as big or bigger than a crocodile. They weigh up to 150 pounds and can be over 10 feet long from tail to head. The largest one on record weighed 370 pounds, or as much as about 6 third graders. Take a look back at our graphic. Why did the author put this map of Indonesia here? Right, because in the first paragraph, it tells us that the dragons are named after the island. So the map is showing us the island of Komodo and where the dragons are named after. Remember our question. Are Komodo dragons large or small reptiles? Do you see a sentence in the text that answers that question? I'm noticing that in the last paragraph, it talks about how large a Komodo dragon is. So any of these sentences could be our text evidence. But I'm going to do the first one because I think that that really supports our answer that Komodo dragons are large because it uses the words big or bigger. A Komodo dragon can be as big or bigger than a crocodile. On the next slide, let's read to fill in the blank. The Komodo dragon uses its tongue to what? And take a look at the image. The caption reads, Komodo dragons use their tongues to smell. I just gave you guys the answer before we even read the text. Remember, we always need to look at the captions and the pictures because sometimes they are the answers to the questions we have in nonfiction text. Since we have the answer to our question, do you think we should just move along? No, that would be silly, guys. We need to read this text because we can learn even more about how the Komodo dragon uses its tongue. Like many reptiles, they can't hear or see very well. Instead, they have a strong sense of smell. They do not use their nostrils to smell. They use their tongue. They can smell food several miles away if the wind is blowing in the right direction. Speaking of food, Komodo dragons are carnivores, so they eat mainly meat. For the most part, they eat dead animals. But if there is no dead animals around, they hunt for food. In addition to the answer that we found in the caption of our photograph, where can we find text evidence from what we just read? Right, we see it here in the first paragraph. They do not use their nostrils to smell, they use their tongue. Great job finding that text evidence. On the next page, we will read to fill in the blanks. Komodo dragons are the only lizards known to blank, blank, and blank animals blank. When we have lots of blanks like this, we need to make sure we're looking for the sentence that is really talking about Komodo dragons are the only lizards. So really hone in on Komodo dragons are the only lizards and think, the only lizards to do what? Take a look at the photograph from page 133. The safest way to observe a Komodo dragon is at a zoo. We know this from earlier in the text. Remember, on this slide, we're reading to fill the blank in for Komodo dragons are the only lizards known to. They have sharp claws and teeth and, when needed, can move pretty fast. They are the only lizards known to attack, kill, and eat animals that are bigger than they are. They might hunt a goat, deer, and even water buffalo. Young Komodo dragons eat insects, smaller mammals, and birds. How? They climb trees and catch them. They will eat anything they can get their claws on, as long as it's meaty. You definitely don't want a Komodo dragon to bite you or even lick you. Its saliva is loaded with dangerous germs that can make people very sick. The best way to observe a Komodo dragon is at a zoo, unless you are very brave or very foolish. When we were reading together, did you guys see what Komodo dragons are the only dragons to do? Take a look at the first paragraph. They have sharp claws and teeth, and when needed, they can move pretty fast. They are the only lizards known to attack, kill, and eat animals that are even bigger than they are. Awesome job finding text evidence. Okay guys, before we move on to the rest of our reading, let's take a little brain break. I want to play Would You Rather again because I had so much fun with you guys doing that last time. So I'm going to ask you a Would You Rather question and then you answer which one you would rather. The first question I have for you is, would you rather be trapped with a Komodo dragon or with a great white shark? I think I would rather be trapped with a great white shark because I'm a great swimmer and I would just swim away. But a Komodo dragon, I'm not sure if I'm getting away from that tone. Would you rather have a pet flamingo or a pet rhinoceros? I would pick a flamingo because it's much smaller and wouldn't take up so much space. Okay, this one's a little silly. Would you rather be a hummingbird or be a beaver? I think I would rather be a beaver because they can use their teeth to gnaw through things. All right, now let's get back to reading. We were just talking about beavers. How convenient. Now we're going to read some about beavers. Some words that we're going to come across in this text are gnaw, to bite or chew something over and over; extinction, the state of no longer existing, usually referring to plants or animals that have died out completely; pelt, the skin of dead animals with hair or fur on it. Notice here we have pelts, which is the plural form of pelt, which means more than one. Wetland, an area of land covered with shallow water, such as a swamp. And notice again, we have what form of the word? Right, the plural form, which is wetlands. Rodent, a small mammal with large, sharp front teeth, such as a squirrel, rat, or mouse. And we have the plural form, rodents, which means more than one. Territorial, keeping animals or people from coming into an area already claimed. Remember to always look in your glossary for bolded words, but in case you didn't have the bold words, we've got all of the words here. All right, let's continue looking for text evidence and reading for a purpose. On the next slide, we will read to answer, what are two key characteristics or features of beavers listed on these pages? Remember, features are the things that make something special or unique. Take a look at the image from the text. Do you already see some features of beavers just by looking at the photograph? The caption reads, beavers have long, sharp teeth and a flat, wide tail. Now let's read to learn more about the features of beavers. Chapter 14, Beavers. Beavers are mammals that have an important role in nature. Beavers have two key characteristics: long, sharp teeth and a flat, wide tail. They use their teeth to gnaw down trees of all sizes for food and for building things. They use their tails to swim, but that's not all. If a beaver smells or sees danger nearby, it will warn the other beavers. It slaps its tail on the water's surface as a loud warning. Beavers live in ponds and lakes in some parts of North America and in some parts of Europe and Asia. They are pretty hard to find today because they were nearly hunted to extinction. And remember, that means all of the species is dead or gone. Beavers were prized for their pelts. which remember is fur, which people used to make fur coats and hats. Do you see the characteristics of beavers from what we just read? Right. Beavers have two key characteristics: long, sharp teeth and a flat, wide tail. So those are the features of beavers. It's what makes them unique or special. On the next slide, we will read to answer, what other animals besides beavers are classified as rodents? And take a look at the photograph from page 137. Beavers are mammals that belong to a smaller group of animals called rodents. Do any of these rodents look familiar to you? They are still hunted today, not only for their pelts, but also because many people think they are pests. As you will learn, beavers can play a very important role in nature by creating a special habitat called a wetland. But sometimes they are pests because they disturb places where people live. Beavers are the second largest rodent in the world. They do look a bit like their fellow rodents, such as mice, rats, and hamsters. Take a look at the picture of the rodents. What do they all have in common? Right, they all have fur, and they all have tails, and they all are so cute, but that's just my opinion. So what other animals are classified as rodents? Right, the last sentence says they do look a bit like their fellow rodents, such as mice, rats, and hamsters. So we have mice, rats, and hamsters that are also classified as rodents. On the next slide, we'll read to fill in the blank. Busy as a beaver means that beavers what? Take a look at the image from page 139. The caption reads, "A beaver swimming from its lodge towards a dam." Have you ever heard the expression, busy as a beaver? It comes from the fact that, in the wild, beavers never seem to stop working. They spend much of their time in water. They are best known for building dams in rivers and streams. They build dams in order to create deeper bodies of water. They move slowly on land, but they are great swimmers. Deep water protects them from bears and other predators. When they sense danger, they dive underwater. They can hold their breath underwater for up to 15 minutes. Beavers also build places to live called lodges. Lodges are big piles of sticks and mud that they build after they have built a nice dam. Beavers use their strong teeth to gnaw down trees of all sizes. Then they strip off and eat the bark of the tree. They use what's left over to build their lodges and dams. Our question was, when people say busy as a beaver, what do they mean? Is there a sentence in the text that helps us better understand what the phrase busy as a beaver means? Right, the second sentence. It comes from the fact that in the wild, beavers never seem to stop working because they're always building dams and lodges. On the next slide, let's read to answer. Why do humans feel that wetlands are a nuisance? Take a look at the picture from page 141. Wetlands are important habitats for many kinds of animals. Look at the animals here in the photograph. What animals are they? Right, we have a deer and two little ducks. What other animals do you think live in the wetlands? Let's read and see if we find out. Look for the sentence that tells us why humans think wetlands are a nuisance. A single beaver family can really change its surroundings. Beavers' dams can cause the water in the stream or river to rise up, flooding the nearby land. This creates a swamp or wetland. Wetlands are important habitats for many types of birds, mammals, fish, and insects. But if there are people living nearby, they may not welcome the flooding. Beavers don't stay in one place for very long. Once the good bark from all the trees is eaten in one place, they tend to move downstream and start all over again. But the wetland they made often remains long after they leave. Is there a sentence in the text that really talks about why people think that wetlands are a nuisance? Yeah. In the second sentence, it says beavers' dams can cause the water in the stream or river to rise up, flooding the nearby land. And that is what makes wetlands. How would you like it if a beaver moved into your neighborhood and made your home into a wetland? Not very good. On the next slide, let's read to answer. Why do beavers attack other beavers who try to move into their space? Take a look at the image from page 143. Beavers are territorial. Let's read more to find out what that word means. Beavers are very territorial. This means they don't like other beavers to move into the same area where they build their lodge. They want to keep all the tasty tree bark for themselves. They often attack other beavers that try to move into a space that they have claimed. All in all, beavers are interesting mammals to watch and study. Why do beavers attack other beavers? Right, because they are territorial. And in the text, we learned that territorial means they don't like when other animals move into the area that they have already claimed. Can you think of any other animals that are territorial? Most animals are territorial. Our next chapter is going to be all about hummingbirds. Some words that we need to know from this text are hover, to float in the air close to something; moss, a very small green or yellow plant that grows on moist rocks, tree bark, or wet ground; flexible, bendable. Don't forget, anytime you're reading a nonfiction text and you come across bold words, you should always look in the glossary to make sure you really understand the words you're reading. I've included all the words here, just in case you don't have your glossary. On the next slide, we're going to read to fill in the blanks. 2 facts about hummingbirds are blank and blank. Take a look at the image from page 145. The caption reads, "A hummingbird compared to the size of a penny." What do you notice about this? Right, the penny is almost the same size as the hummingbird. What does that tell us about a hummingbird? Right, they're pretty small. Chapter 15, Hummingbirds. Birds can be found nearly everywhere on Earth, and they come in many different sizes and colors. They also live in many different types of habitats. This affects how they eat, nest, and sing songs. Hummingbirds are among the smallest birds. The bee hummingbird is the smallest bird on Earth, just 2 inches long. It weighs less than a penny. Can you show me 2 inches? Yeah, we could estimate 2 inches is about this big. That's a pretty small bird. A hummingbird is an amazing little animal. It can flap its wings up to 90 times in 1 second. That's so fast, it looks like its wings are a blur. It's hard to see its wings because they are constantly flapping. Can you list 2 facts from the text about hummingbirds? I thought it was pretty cool that the bee hummingbird is the smallest bird on Earth and just 2 inches long. I also thought it was a really cool fact that it can flap its wings up to 90 times in 1 second. What fact did you find about hummingbirds? Did you have a different fact than me? Great job. On the next slide, let's read to find out. What do hummingbirds eat? Take a look at the picture from page 147. The caption reads, "A hummingbird approaches a flower for nectar." Hummingbirds dart around from flower to flower like bees. They use their long pointy beaks to drink sweet nectar from flowers. Since they are so busy flapping their wings, they need to eat a lot to replace all of their energy. A typical hummingbird will visit hundreds of flowers every day, drinking more than its own weight in nectar. Nectar has sugar, which gives hummingbirds plenty of energy. As they find insects on flowers, hummingbirds eat them up. Hummingbirds are attracted to red flowers. They are also drawn to red feeders, which people hang on their porches and trees. Have you guys ever seen anyone hang those red feeders? Yes, me too. The feeders are filled with sugary water, which is then dyed red to attract the birds. People hang feeders for them because these birds are a lot of fun to watch. Why do you think these birds are so cool to watch? Right, I think they're so cool to watch because their wings flap so fast. Our question was, what do hummingbirds eat? Do you see the answer in the text? I see. A typical hummingbird will visit hundreds of flowers each day, drinking more than its own weight in nectar. So hummingbirds eat nectar to get their energy. Is that all that hummingbirds eat? No, there was something else the text mentioned that hummingbirds eat. Right, they find insects on flowers, and hummingbirds eat them up. So hummingbirds eat nectar and insects for energy. On the next slide, let's read to answer. What is amazing about the migration of hummingbirds? Take a look at the image from page 149. The locations where the ruby-throated hummingbird lives in summer and winter. So what is this image of? Right, the location of the ruby-throated hummingbird in the summer. Let's read more about the migration of hummingbirds. Like many birds, the ruby-throated hummingbird migrates. This means it spends part of the year in one place and part of the year in another place. It can be found in parts of the eastern United States during the late spring and early summer. When autumn rolls around, it heads south for warmer weather. Here is an amazing fact. This tiny bird, which is shorter than your finger, doesn't migrate just a few miles. It migrates all the way across the Gulf of Mexico, 500 miles without stopping. From there, it may continue south through Mexico to Costa Rica and beyond. Here is another interesting fact. They are the only birds that can fly backwards. They can also hover and fly upside down. What is an amazing fact about the migration of hummingbirds? Right. Here is an amazing fact. This tiny bird, which is shorter than your finger, doesn't migrate just a few miles. It migrates all the way across the Gulf of Mexico, 500 miles without stopping. On the next slide, let's read to answer. Why do hummingbirds build nests that are flexible? Take a look at the image from page 151. The caption says, "A ruby-throated hummingbird feeds its babies." Do you notice anything about this picture? Right. The baby bird's beaks are open because the mother is feeding them. Now let's look for the sentence that answers the question, why do hummingbirds build nests that are flexible? Their nests are very small, about half as big as a walnut shell. They make their nests using little bits of moss and leaves. They use spider webs to hold these little bits of nature together. They sometimes eat the spider before using its web as glue. Yuck. The spider's web is nice and sticky. It is also flexible. A hummingbird will lay 2 tiny eggs. When its tiny eggs hatch and the babies begin to grow, the spider web will allow the nest to expand. This helps the babies stay warm and safe. In the image, a hummingbird is feeding its babies. Maybe it is giving them a nice juicy bug to eat. Maybe it is sharing a taste of sweet flower nectar with the babies. See if you can find a more interesting little bird than that. So why do hummingbirds build nests that are flexible? The text says, this helps the babies stay warm and safe. You guys did an awesome job today, reading for a purpose and understanding, and really looking to find that text evidence. I'd love to know how you're feeling about reading 3rd grade level text. Are you Red, still confused about some of the words we talked about in today's reading? Yellow, still need a little more help when you're reading by yourself? Or green, you could have read that all by yourself and answered all of the questions. Remember, it's okay to feel red or yellow, especially at the beginning of the year. Just make sure to keep in touch with your teacher and let them know that you need to continue practicing your reading. I'm so proud of how hard you worked today, and I can't wait to see you guys for the next lesson. Bye-bye!